Good morning students. Today we will study about the various terms used with the capacity of lungs or the air that we breathe in, the volume which is utilized by the body, or the volume which is stored in the lungs which is expelled out or taken in. So all these the terms used for this volume of air taken in by during the process of respiration or breathing. So let's start with the first first term used, that is tidal volume. Tidal volume is the amount of air breathed in or out during a normal breathing process. So amount of air taken in and released out during a normal breathing is 500 milliliters. Volume of air is 500 milliliter during normal breathing process. Some of the air, it is left in the dead air space. Now dead air space is this space till this, from the nasal passage from the trachea to the bronchi. So this is the dead air space where there is no diffusion of gas. In this space, some of the air is left in the dead air space while the rest part enters into the alveolar sac. So the part which is left in the dead air space, that is trachea and bronchi, is 150 milliliters, and out of 500, 150 is in the dead air space and rest 350 ml enters into the alveolar sacs. Next is inspiratory reserve volume. So air that can be drawn forcibly. After a forcible inspiration, the inspiratory volume increases, and that inspiratory volume is after forcible inhalation process is 3000 milliliter. 3000 milliliter of air can be forcibly taken in during the inhalation process. Inspiratory capacity is 3500. 3500 is the amount of the tidal volume plus the air which is forcibly taken in, that is this 500 plus 3000 makes this inspiratory capacity 3500 milliliter. Next is expiratory reserve volume. Air that can be forcibly expelled out. Air that can be forcibly expelled out is only 1000 milliliter. Only 1000 milliliter. So, but this capacity, inspiratory capacity and expiratory capacity reserve volume together, it forms 4500 milliliter, that is vital capacity. Volume of air that can be taken in after maximum inspiration or expiration or inhalation and exhalation process. The air volume of air then that can be taken in after maximum inhalation or exhalation process, that is 4500 ml. Residual volume. After all these complete processes, after forcible exhalation, after forcible inhalation, exhalation, some of the air still remains in the lungs, and this air which is left after forcible breathing out is 1500 ml, and this is termed as residual volume. The 1500 ml which is left after forcible expelling out of air is the residual volume of lung. Next is total lung capacity. Total lung capacity is after maximum inhalation or exhalation. So this complete the value which is vital capacity and the residual volume together, it forms the total lung capacity. These two together forms the total lung capacity of the two lungs, and that is 6000 milliliter. I am repeating, tidal volume is the amount of air taken in during normal breathing process, which is 500 ml. Out of this 500, 350 enters into the alveolar sac for getting exchanged or for the diffusion process, while the 150 ml, it remains in the air passage which is trachea and bronchi, and this is termed as dead air space, where no diffusion takes place. After this, there is maximum forcible inhalation. For forcible inhalation, the amount is 3000. 3000 after forcible. So total, along with the tidal and the forcible, it becomes 3500 milliliter, and it is termed as inspiratory capacity of the lungs. Expiratory reserve volume is maximum which can be expelled out, which can be released out, and that is 1000 milliliter only. Vital capacity is the volume of air that can be taken in after maximum inspiration and expiration. So this is about 4500 milliliter. Residual volume of air left after maximum expelling of the air, which is still left in the lungs, is 1500 milliliters. Then total lung capacity is the amount of air which the two lungs can retain is 6000 milliliters. So these are all other terms used for volume of air that enters into the lung after in the normal breathing, after inhalation, after exhalation, whether it is normal or forcible. So for all the volumes we use these terms. These terms are very important for 1 marks questions. So for one line definitions, you have to learn these terms. Next, we'll discuss about the experiments related to the respiration process. We'll study about some of the experiments to show the breathing process or the changes in the diaphragm during the breathing process. CO2 is released out during the breathing process, or oxygen is taken in during the breathing process. So let's start with the experiments here. First experiment is to demonstrate that water is lost during breathing. For this experiment, what we can do, that take a glass plate or a cold surface, metal surface or anything, and just breathe out near that plate, like this type of. If water droplets can be seen on that glass surface or the plate or the slate surface, then it proves that the air released or that water is lost during the breathing process. Next experiment is to demonstrate that CO2 is given out in breathing. The diagram may look very complicated, but the experiment is simply based on that when CO2 comes in contact with lime water, the lime water turns milky, and this simple technique we can use to demonstrate that when we breathe out, CO2 is released. Now have a look at the diagram. In this, you can see the one. This is the inlet where the atmospheric air enters. From here, this atmospheric air enters into a conical flask containing lime water. From here, it is just to detect or just to prove that the air entering is free from carbon dioxide, and the air is then allowed to enter into this tube, where after entering here, it is taken in through the mouth, and this valve is closed. After that, the air is expelled through this passage, and the D clip is opened. C is closed and D is open. So the air enters into the lime water in this conical flask, and what we observe, that after breathing out or after releasing exhalation process, the air that enters into the second flask makes the lime water turning into a milky color. So this proves that the air exhaled out contains carbon dioxide. Next is to measure the volume of air expired or exhaled or taken out. So volume of air that is released out from this air is forcibly exhaled. After forcible exhalation, what happens that the air entering into this makes the water, this bottle is filled with water, so makes or pushes the water through this tube into this container. So amount of water coming out of this tube shows the volume of air exhaled or breathed out. Next experiment is to demonstrate the role of diaphragm. Role of diaphragm, as in the respiration process I have explained that during respiration what happens that rib cage, since here the rib cage is not shown, only the role of diaphragm is here. So when the diaphragm comes lower, lowering of diaphragm during the process of inhalation, during the process of breathing in, like this, diaphragm gets lower, rib cage comes upward and outward, but the diaphragm gets lowered. So lowering of diaphragm resulting resulting rushing out or rushing of air into this cavity, and hence these balloons inside the glass bottle gets bulged out or swells up, gets filled with air. So this shows the process of inhalation. Next, when we push the diaphragm in the normal dome shaped structure, so this reduces the cavity. Reduction in the cavity results in pushing the air out or exhalation, and this is the process of breathing out. This is the role of diaphragm in the breathing process. Next is to show oxygen is taken in during breathing. So what we have done, we have taken a conical flask, a candle and a cockroach. What do we observe? That after some time, when the candle was burning, the cockroach was there also, the cockroach was living there. But after some time, what we observe, that the candle gets extinguished. Candle gets extinguished because the oxygen, that carbon dioxide released by the cockroach during the breathing process, CO2 is an extinguisher of fire, so it makes the candle extinguish. These are the experiments to show that breathing process releases moist air, breathing process releases out carbon dioxide, breathing process takes in oxygen, diaphragm, role of diaphragm during the process of breathing. So this is all about the chapter respiratory system. Thank you, students.